Thanks, Brian, and welcome everyone to our special education leaders meeting. I'm looking to see if the attendance starts to go up now that we're a couple of minutes into this, since you can come slightly late to this meeting, but I really appreciate everyone being here. Before we actually get started, I just want to take a minute to thank one of the members of our team who's actually retiring here at the beginning of May. Amanda Green has been an amazing member of our team now for many, many years. And I know she has touched so many of you in the district, all of the work that she's done around promoting support for transition age students, promoting our work in so many different aspects of special education. It's not just about transition for Amanda, although I know that is where she has a particular area of expertise. All of the work that she has done just to support our development of guidance, technical assistance. I hear from so many people that if they have a question, they know they can call Amanda. They know that they'll help her out, that she will help them out. And I'm so appreciative of that. And so, this is all human work. And so those of you who've particularly been, connected to Amanda over the years, if you wanted to just share anything in the Q&A, we'll be glad to pass it on to her. If you want to send her a note, please do so. Closure is important, and I just want to take a minute as we start this presentation today to express my gratitude to you, Amanda, for everything that you've done, and just so very grateful for the legacy that you've created. I think that it's always a sign of leadership when we see the types of activities that people have started will live on beyond them, and I know that particularly all the work that she's done to promote the transition of students into adult services, into adult life, will really carry on, and in an inclusive way. I could go on and on, but it's really her emphasis on inclusion, her emphasis on transition, how that's come together. I know it will live on. So from all of us, Amanda, thank you for your great work, and look forward to hearing about the next chapter. So here's what we're talking about today. I'm really excited to bring you an update on the IEP Improvement Project. Want to talk a little bit about the problem resolution system, talk a little bit about Equitable Services, and particularly the resolution funds. And then I have a series of just, some general updates. Many of them are special ed related. A couple of them aren't, because I also know that many of you oversee people personnel services. So I just look for topics that, relate to your work, kind of bringing a lot of different aspects of the support that a district provides to students and families together. And, we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A, and I look forward to getting into that with you. So our first topic for today is the IEP Improvement Project. There's been just, really great work that our team has been doing to just advance this. As you know, we've released our referral evaluation and eligibility guidance, and that's available now online. We will be kind of making some final tweaks to that and then putting it into a PDF form so that you don't, we want you to primarily use it in the online version, but I know some people like to have that downloadable printed material. And so we want it available in both formats. We also want it translated. And so we're putting some finishing touches on that, but it's usable now. It has the information that you need about those components. And I recently talked to the ACE convening back in March about some of the changes that we want to make to REE, and particularly the emphasis in the beginning about how do we intervene? How does what's the emphasis on the role of the principal, the role of general education, on early intervention, so that there isn't sort of a fast track to special education, and we want to make sure we're correctly identifying students for that referral process. And so it really begins by having strong tier 1 interventions, strong role of the principal that's actually in regulation. And so we will be adding that to the beginning. And that's really based on feedback that we had from so many of you asking to say, we really want to make sure that you make good on that effort to describe that role prior to getting into the referral process. And so we will be doing that. That's something you can look forward to here later on this spring as well. But today, I just want to go back over, what we're attempting to do with the IEP Improvement Project. We must really never lose sight of why are we trying to change something, because again, we don't have to from a regulatory perspective. There's nothing wrong with the current IEP in terms of how we are implementing statute and regulation through particularly the forms that we have right now. But we want to do better, because we know that there are, substantial achievement gaps for our children with disabilities, substantial opportunity gaps. And so how can we just really improve the process to improve outcomes? So, again, if you look on the left side of this slide, what are we doing to improve outcomes for all students with disabilities? And when we think about this project, it's combining our guidance, our technical assistance, and our tools so that they all come together. So I'm going to talk to you in a minute about forms, and I know that forms are sort of the kind of the center point of special education. We think about the IEP form itself, but we think of this project as being more than that. If we really want to change outcomes, it's about guidance, technical assistance, and tools such as the new forms that all have to come together to have impact. And so that's what we're working really diligently on together. And then, really just about meaningful access. And so I hope that as you see the materials that we're producing, really wanting them to be user-friendly, wanting to change the language, for example, that we use on the IEP form itself, so that it's more easily translated, more easily interpreted, and more easily just accessible for all families in terms of the language that we use. And then, like I said, this is all in service of closing those opportunity and achievement gaps that exist right now. So our project goal, our theory of change on this slide, our graphic to kind of just, pull together outcomes, access, and closing gaps. That's really all put together is the core of our IEP Improvement Project. So like I mentioned, the forms are sort of the center point, the focal point of a lot of what we do in special education. It all comes down to the IEP and the IEP process and the centrality of the team, how important the team is to making decisions. And we know that there's a lot that has to go around that to make that the IEP process work as well as it possibly can. So like I mentioned, we've already developed our guidance called REE, Referral Evaluation Eligibility. We will also have available a parent's guide to special education. We have one right now. It hasn't gone out of date, but we will update it. We will have our IEP process guide to sort of describe how to implement the new forms, how do we conceive of the IEP meeting changing as a result of the use of the forms, as the use of these new materials and tools that we will create for you. And then finally, through our investment in the early adopters and the investment that they're making and giving us feedback, we want to just be able to produce a systems improvement playbook about what beyond the kind of ins and outs of the individual meetings that happen, but how do we work to improve the connection between general education and special education, improve the focus on what's special about special education in order to really get at those outcomes. So I know you've seen this slide before, but I just want to keep coming back to what should you expect? What are we working towards? But I'm really excited. I know that we've been talking about this for a long time, but I have very clear dates as to when we will be releasing our forms. And before I go to that slide, before I even start showing you a timeline, I just want to take a step back and remind you that no one will be using these forms immediately upon release. We are releasing them later this month so that you can give us feedback on them. They are not intended to be used right away. In fact, you won't be using them right away. You'll be looking at them to kind of see the direction that we're going and able to provide us with feedback. And so we are going to release the forms this month. We are excited about doing it so our early adopters in particular can dig right in with them. They are the group that we want to see using them most immediately, but that most immediately means actually at the beginning of next school year that we actually want them to use the forms. So if you can imagine this spring, this summer, we're looking at the forms, our early adopters are getting some training on the forms, they're beginning to use the forms next fall. And then, I'll show you the timeline beyond that. But, where in COVID days and months and years, I know next fall feels like a lifetime from now. And so I just want to remind you that there is nothing that you need to do as a result of us releasing new forms. It's more that I just want you to kind of see the direction. There will be lots of opportunities for feedback and input on the forms. They are draft, they will improve over time. But of all the things that make you anxious right now, I don't want these forms to be one of them. I hope you see them as I do, as kind of a sign of light for the future of some things that we can make better about special education. And that it's nothing that, is going to immediately change your world. So I'll probably say that again as I go through this, because I've gotten a lot of feedback from very many different stakeholders, district folks and advocacy individuals, parent groups to say, we're going to be implementing a new IEP this spring. I want to really begin by being very, very clear. We are not. You are going to be able to see a draft IEP and some new forms this spring. You're going to be able to give us feedback, but there's no expectation that anyone is using these forms right away. And if you don't want to look at them, if you don't want to give us feedback, you don't have to. Keep doing what you're doing, keep staying focused on learning, like how we started this presentation, so that we can just get to the finish line at the end of the school year. So here's our timeline. We are really excited about the early adopters meeting that we have on April 29th. So everything that we've been doing is saying, let's make sure we're ready for our early adopters to really dig in on the new forms, on the IEP itself, this draft IEP on April 29th. And so we backed up from there and said, all right, so we want to make sure that when this happens, they're already up publicly, that our draft forms have been released. And what that means is we're going to put them up on our website on April 28th. And we're also going to email them out to, anybody who signed up for our special education updates. We'll send it out there. We will send it out to our special education leaders. We've got a list of the organizations that we think we need to send the forms out in advance, but they'll also be on our website. So if you happen to not get them, they will be available publicly, because we didn't want to have it where some people have it and some people don't. And we just know that this could be, we want to take down the anxiety on anything related to the new forms. So we're excited that you will have access to them on April 28th. Our early adopters dig in with them. Let's see what happens from there. So this summer, our early adopters would have some training opportunities to learn more about the use of the forms. We'll have feedback sessions throughout, the spring and summer from our stakeholder groups. So we really want to hear from stakeholders about what they make of the forms, what we need to do to change them. So it'll be pretty iterative, that as our early adopters are getting some training, we're also listening to stakeholders. Our early adopters are one of our key groups of stakeholders because they're actually using the forms. There's one thing to look at it. There's another thing that has to take place to use them. And then our early adopters would begin next school year, just the early months of next school year, piloting the forms. And we're imagining a very limited pilot, right? Because, everything that goes into the draft form, the new forms, also has to somehow link over to your current IEP system. And so we think if you do that on a pretty limited basis, for just a couple of, a few students with parent permission, for a couple of months, we'll be able to, because we have 17 schools and districts working with us, the numbers will add up for us. We don't want the numbers to add up for any individual school or district acting as an early adopter. They just need to do a few so that we get many drawing from each of the participating schools and districts. So just starting with that, that pilot next fall, we'll be able to get more feedback from them that we can kind of aggregate and put together to anything that we need to do next November and December to finalize the forms. And then we can start training for schools and districts next winter, doing training and technical assistance through the spring and summer of 2023. And then this is when, when we're anticipating that there would be a change is during the 2023-24 school year. And we didn't even say fall of 2023-24. We're saying this school year. So we need to see how this all comes together. But again, if I want to just say this, I hope that this is not something that gives you anxiety, because we've got a long way to build to get to implementation. And implementation is when things change, right? I mean, change will be coming. There'll be a process of change through the training, the technical assistance that we'll provide. But, full scale implementation does not happen until school year 23-24. But you can see the kind of the steps we're taking to get there, and that they're building blocks, and that there is action that we're taking each step along the way to ultimately get there. And again, I know that this has been an area of concern of like, what's DESE going to drop on us? What's coming? Just want to say one more time, it's just draft forms for you to take a look at. And we will reach out to various stakeholders to start getting that feedback May through August. So, if you're not an early adopter, all that you'll be looking at is the form itself and then giving us some feedback. If you are an early adopter, we'll be supporting you starting April 29th and then going into further training, and then just supporting you with that pilot September and October of 2022. And then just one more time reminding everyone that we're not looking at full-scale implementation until the years 23, 24. Just before I go on, Jamie and April, is there anything that I missed that you think I should add about our excitement about releasing this to you, and anything else that you think the IEP project needs?
I think you did, as always, a great job covering all the bases and making sure that you got all the points across. So thank you. There's nothing that I can think of to add, Jamie.
I think I'm good too.
All right. Well, as always, I encourage people to put their questions in the Q&A section of this webinar. So the chat is disabled. We want to funnel everything to the Q&A. So if you have questions about this or anything else that you came here to seek answers on, just please put that in the Q&A. We'll look forward to hearing your thoughts. I want to move on to talking about the problem resolution system. This is a topic we've talked about in the past. I remember when we had our in-person meetings before COVID, and Barry Barnett, our director of the Problem Resolution System Office, came around regionally and talked about what we're doing with PRS. And this will probably be something that we'll need to keep coming back to. So today is not the final word on PRS, but it is, just important to come back to some of the basics. And that's really what I want to talk about today, is some of the what are our requirements, what are DESE's requirements as it relates to PRS, and then some tips for schools and districts in terms of responding to complaints that I'll close this section with as well. So we've had some questions about kind of the scope and authority of PRS, what types of complaints are we looking at? And so I just want to clarify, we always just come back to statute and regulation, both state statute and regulation, and federal statute and regulation. So just starting with the state regulations, and obviously, I'm not going to ask you to read all this that's on the slide, but in our state regulations, we have this important part about that the department need to be able to make findings on procedural issues and issues related to implementation of requirements. So for us in Massachusetts, our regulation goes beyond special education for PRS. It says that we need to make sure that there's compliance with all of the statute and regulations related to publicly funded education. And that we can make findings on procedural issues and issues related to implementation of requirements. So anything that's a requirement in statute or regulation is something that we have to be able to make findings on. And so that is one thing I know when Barry came around a few years ago. For those of you who were with us at that time, remember Barry talking about how Massachusetts is a little bit different, that we take both general education and special education complaints. And I just want to come back to why that's in state regulation. And then when we look at federal regulation, I think one of the key things about federal regulation is that for special education, so this is federal education as it relates to special education, we need to be able to resolve any complaint. And I appreciate how simply and plainly this is written, that we have to be able to resolve any complaint that comes to us related to special education, and it has to be able to meet certain requirements. And so what I want to do now is just look at what are the requirements that have to be associated with a complaint about special education that comes into DESE to our PRS team. And so these are the requirements. So if you recall on the slide, I just referred to 300, 153. And so we'll just take a look at that. And it's at the end of the day, looks like a long list, but it's still pretty simple, that any complaint has to say that that a public agency has violated a requirement of special education, the facts, a signature. If there's an allegation with respect to a specific child, we need to see the name and address of the residence of the child, the name of the school that the child is attending, and then a particular provision for students who are covered by McKinney-Vento, anything about the nature of the problem, and then the proposed resolution. So this is, again, I appreciate the clarity here. This is what if you then look at our intake form, you'll see that there's sort of a one-to-one correspondence of what you see here and what's on our intake form. There might be a few additional things on our intake form, but it's very much inclusive of this list. This is why maybe it's just good to kind of go back and remember why are these things even on the intake form? And it's because of this requirement. And so just with that in mind, I want to just talk through a few things. I appreciate that what Barry and the PRS team are really always striving to learn and to think about our practice and to think about what kind of feedback we're getting from schools and districts, as well as advocates, as well as parents, about how we can continue to improve this process. And so one of the things that I've said to various stakeholder groups is that if you have a question or feedback about the PRS process, share a specific complaint with us. Share what documents you receive from PRS, because kind of global statements are sort of harder for us to act on. But when Barry and I in particular can look at a particular case, a particular finding, sort of the response to a local report request, it really helps us. It helps Barry and me, help to refine and improve this process. And some of you have been doing that. And I'm speaking on behalf of Barry right now, but we both appreciate it. We want you to kind of reach out to us and tell us like, hey, I have a question about, what I submitted or how much I submitted. And so it's led to us to, follow up with a few tips that I would just want to share with you today. Some of you may already do this. Some of you already may know this, but just in case, want to just say a couple of quick things. One is that, we do tailor our investigation to the allegations that are raised. And just a quick reminder is just to really carefully read that request for local report and provide just the requested materials. That's what we're looking for. And, so just really appreciate, I know that when I was on the receiving side as a special education director, a PRS complaint, it can feel a little whelming. And, I use that as opposed to overwhelming, but there's a sense of like, oh, here, it's work, something that I have to do, I have to set aside time to do, and just, start by just reviewing what's actually requested to make sure I have a good sense of it, and dig in there. And then, if you have any questions about the scope of the investigation or the materials that are being requested, please just reach out to the investigator. And so, if there are, I know that, Barry and I were just recently looking at a case that came back to us where somebody said, can you just look at what I had to submit for the local report? And we were, seeing that the request was like the most recent IEP, for example, and that the district had sent in several years worth of IEPs. And so it's, Barry and I were, thinking to ourselves about what do we need to do to refine our directions to make sure it's very clear that all we want is the last IEP, for example. We don't need multiple years of IEPs if we're asking for the most recent. But if you have any questions about that, if you think like, when they say most recent, does that mean the last 3 years? Or does that mean just the last year? That might be a good time for you to reach out to that investigator to say, am I doing the right thing by giving you just the last year, or do you really want 3 years worth of IEPs, just as an example? So if you're ever in doubt about how much you're preparing in the way of the scope of the investigation, the materials being requested, don't hesitate just to reach out to the investigator, because we want to make sure we help you with that. We want to make sure we work to streamline the process as best we can. And then also just a reminder that, if you're able to resolve the issue with the complainant, that in some cases does take care of the complaint. And we would never ask the complainant to withdraw their complaint, but sometimes if you are able to work it out, they will. And through that resolution, you're talking to the complainant and saying, it looks like we resolved this. Does it make sense to continue with the PRS review, for example? And so, again, the complainant still has every right to pursue their complaint. We would never limit that, but we do see some good effort being made to resolve the complaint without completing all of the, or while simultaneously completing the PRS process. Districts are attempting to resolve complaints and having good success with that. And so we just encourage you to keep reaching out to the complainant to attempt to resolve any issues that you can. So, like I said, I know we'll be coming back with, I know this is a hot topic. I know there are questions about the problem resolution process. We'll be glad to come back to you, maybe seeing what questions you share with us today. Maybe if we can't answer them all, we'll figure out how do we keep working at it, because we are a learning organization and we want to continue to improve. So I'm going to move on now to our next topic about equitable services, IDEA Equitable Services, and I'm really pleased that Jamie Camacho is going to take over. Jamie, welcome. And it looks like the internet in Malden's not working so well, so welcome. And it looks like the internet, I don't know if I froze, Jamie.
I don't think I'm frozen. Am I frozen? Okay. He just needs to move the slides to me. So, okay. So most of you know about the resolution funds. Many of you are receiving resolution funds in your districts this year. So this slide just gives an overview of what we've already provided for information. We included it just because some districts may be getting resolution funds this next fiscal year that are not currently. So as you know, these funds are meant to remedy a complaint with USED, and so it's funds that are really meant to address the students that are parentally placed or homeschooled, and they're used the same way as your regular equitable services fund. So it's just another funding source. Russell, we'll move to the next slide. So this month in April, we're halfway through it, but you'll be getting a letter, districts that are impacted that will be receiving funds for year 2. Last year was year 1, this is year 2. So if you are a district that had students in your count, your child count that you reported on your application for this year, you'll be getting a letter that will tell you what the allocation is for both the 240 and the 262 funds. If you are a district that opted in to taking all your funds in year 1 last year, then obviously you won't get that letter this year. You'll have already received your funds, but those letters will be coming. We just want it kind of on your radar, and you should be getting it by the end of the month. Next slide, Russell. Just a reminder about timely and meaningful consultation. So just like you are required to as part of equitable services, you also have to have meaningful consultation for the resolution funds. So last year we reminded you about this. We're suggesting that you add something to your affirmation that just says that you also discuss the resolution funds. So you can combine and have one meeting that you talk about your parentally placed homeschool students and parentally placed private school students and homeschool students for both the regular resolution funds and your regular equitable services, or you can have separate meetings. But if you do a combined meeting, we're just asking that you note that you also discuss the resolution funds. We're also asking that the affirmations for the resolution funds can be provided to us through the equitable services inbox as last year. And we're asking for those to be provided by June 1st this year. The next slide, Russell.
There you go.
So this is very similar to what we provided you last year as far as timeline. So this year, April, May, you're going to need to make sure that you have your consultation meetings. June 1st will be the deadline for this written affirmation. Again, it's only for the resolution funds. And just kind of like to put it on your radar, what else is coming? As you know, the application for the consolidated grant usually comes out around July. So you'll be filling that out July through about October. Next winter, those that receive resolution funds for year 2 will be asked to submit a self-assessment to talk about how you are expending those funds, just like this year. So if you receive funds this year, you completed a self-assessment in January. We'll be doing the same thing next year for the resolution funds for year 2. And then the following fall, so 2023, once the funding year ends, you'll be doing an annual financial report. So for those of you that receive resolution funds for this year, you'll get one in this fall for this last year. But for this upcoming year 2, that will not occur until after the end of the funding cycle. So that's just kind of dates that are coming. And I think that was almost it.
Great, thanks so much, Jamie. And so just a quick reminder that we'll be notifying you in April. We'll want information from you about meaningful consultation by June. I know last year, some of you had concerns about, wait, I didn't receive a letter, or where did the letter go? And Jamie, I know that that's why we're both sending the letters out and putting the list up on our website. So it was really good feedback you provided us last year that we're continuing on with this year.
Yes, exactly. And I think the list is actually out there and posted already. The letters will be coming.
Excellent. All right. So if you're curious, you can check the list. And Jamie, is there any way to put the link to the posting in the chat then?
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
As we go along, that'd be great. People might be curious right now to just check to see if they're on the list. Again, you can know if you're on the list because it's based on what you told us in your grant application for fiscal year 2022. Like Jamie said, right here about your fiscal year 22 IDA grant application. So, all right, let's go on to a few different special education updates. So I'm going to try to just control my screen a little differently than I normally do. So I'm just going to stop that real quick. I think you're probably aware that on March 24th, the U.S. Department of Education issued a letter to educators and parents about the responsibilities to provide in-person learning for students with disabilities, and the right to receive FAPE in the least restrictive environment. So I just have it queued up real quick to take a look at. I would really, if you haven't read the letter yet, I would really encourage you to do so, to do it fairly soon. But you'll see that it's fairly lengthy. There's a lot here. I did highlight one section that I just want to call to your attention. And again, there's a lot in here that's really worth taking a look at. But it's actually on page 4 about the role of the IEP team and the 504 team, frankly, that, you know, really looking at whether or not a student needs a particular, you know, COVID prevention or risk reduction measure is how it's worded here, in order for the student to receive FAPE, and where those prevention measures constitute special education, related services, supplementary aids and services under IDA, or related aids and services under Section 504. The team would need to include those in the student's IEP or Section 504 plan. I will tell you this, that it's a little difficult for DESE to opine a whole lot further on this, to say, like, what does this mean, and in what situation would this apply? I think it's important that, you know, that you're just aware of this. Let's always come back to a lot of the plain language that's here, not overread into it, but not underread into it. There could be some questions, of course, you know, as a result of this coming your way. And so I just want you to be well versed in what's in this letter so that you can answer questions. We're glad to try to be, you know, thought partners for you on this. But again, I think we might be a little limited into how much more we can say about this when it's, you know, a letter from the U.S. Department of Education. And, you know, we appreciate their emphasis on in-person learning. We appreciate what is, you know, the focus of what's being done here and the direction that they're providing schools and districts. And we want to support you as best we can, but we can't like extrapolate further than much more than what's here. The good news is, again, it's a lengthy letter, so they have gone to great lengths to explain how we should be thinking about this. And I'll be glad to kind of hear any questions or concerns that that you might have, and do our best to support you in that. The other topic that I just wanted to share with you real quick as an update, or not the other, there are a few here. This was in the Commissioner's Weekly Update last week, but just a reminder that their Learn Lunch, an organization that you know, we're excited to see their work and to see how they're supporting students' access to learning right now, is coming up with a workshop that will be offered on, as you can see, the 26th of April, and again on April 27th, about, you know, powerful learning experiences for students with disabilities. And again, kind of drawing back to how we started this presentation about, you know, our passion for learning, our passion for seeing how learning can help to overcome achievement and opportunity gaps for students with disabilities. So if you haven't taken a look at this yet, please do so. It could be something that could be valuable to you and your teams. So I hope you find just this reminder helpful as well. Another quick sort of potpourri odds and ends here at the end of today's presentation is that the Attorney General released an advisory about equal access to public education for all students, irrespective of immigration status. So again, I'm going to go back and show you that real quick. I know that when I was director of, oops, wrong one. Oh, here it is. When I was director of special education, special services, I also oversaw the enrollment office in the district where I worked for. I'm sure that's true for a lot of you. And so, I think it's important to look at this and to really think about it critically around, anything that your enrollment team might be doing, consciously, unconsciously around immigration status. And so I think it really, again, spells things out pretty clearly, although it's from the Attorney General's office. There's some, case law citations in here. So when I read it, I thought, I know that we, DESE, have recommended share it with your enrollment team. And I'm sure that just sort of the experience of enrollment teams, welcome centers sort of varies across the state in terms of, are you the director and it's just basically, the line staff who are welcoming our families and doing that enrollment process, or if you have a director, that's really going to vary across the state. But when I looked at this, I thought I'd probably want to sit down with my enrollment team and go over this together and talk about it and look for places where we might maybe even have some blind spots, some things that we need to work to improve. So again, what I appreciate about what's in here is just, pretty clear about, enrollment practices that single out students based on their actual or perceived citizenship or immigration status violate state and federal law. All right, plain, clear, helpful. And then it sort of goes on to talk about some key issues about visa issues, overstaying a visa, how that plays in. And again, it could just be, you might be on the straight and narrow with this, you might be good, there might not be anything you need to do to change. But where the Attorney General has written this, would just encourage you to take a look and see if there's anything that you are, again, consciously or unconsciously doing that is precluding students from enrolling when they do meet the legal requirements of age and residency. If for students who are particularly, who are immigrants. And so would just, again, encourage you to take a look at that. But when I read it, I thought, I'd probably want to do this with my team, not just sort of send it to them and say, good luck, let me know if you have any thoughts. Then, just a couple more things. We're going to go to COVID testing and then transportation. So just a reminder that we put out our advisory or a brief memo April 8th, I believe it was, just saying that we are extending our current testing practices that are currently available beyond April 22nd. So if you remember back in January, we said we're committing to what we're doing right now through April 22nd. On April 8th, we just clarified that what we have in place will continue past April 22nd, but we're also just continuing to monitor any COVID-related factors right now that we're seeing across the state, and that we might make further adjustments to the COVID testing program, and we'll follow up this spring with more information. So I know some of you oversee, lots of things, including things like enrollment and COVID testing. And so I just want to make sure that you saw that information, and we'll have more information on that for you soon. Just to clarify where we're going. I know that we've had a lot of questions about summer and even next school year. So when we release more information, it will be comprehensive, looking most likely both at anything about the end of this school year, if there are any changes, and then, further clarification about the summer and hopefully next school year as well. So my final update for you is just reminding us, as we all, know that as we come off April break, there's just, I know, so much that has to get done to wind up this school year, to get ready for ESY, and to be planning for next school year. So it's sort of triple whammy. I know it's already there. I know you're already engaged in each of those, but I just know how much it accelerates after April vacation, each of those topics. And then, particularly ESY, making sure you're staffed, making sure there's schedules, making sure there's, in this case, transportation. And so we'll be saying more about ESY transportation, but just a reminder that parents of students for whom transportation is provided in their IEPs, and notice that and who transport their children, are eligible for reimbursement as described in the regulation that we've cited there. Important to know that the mileage reimbursement has increased as of March 20th to the amount that you see there per mile. And then just a reminder about ESY in particular. So, that's transportation overall, the first two bullets. Planning for summer. For ESY, students with disabilities may need transportation to access and benefit from ESY services. So just, please keep that in mind as you're planning for your ESY transportation, about that particular caveat that some students with disabilities may need transportation to access summer services to benefit from those services. And so just please have that in mind as you are setting up transportation for those ESY services. Always just that final reminder that we do put a lot of this information either in the Commissioner's Weekly Update, I drew a few of these items from, or our special education updates. So we just included the link that you can use to sign up for our newsletter. That's what the cover always looks like with each edition. And then glad to go to our Q&A in just a second. I realize we usually put a slide in with our upcoming date